Now introducing the wonderful Bob Hoffman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? All right, so this is a workshop on communication. So we're going to talk. It's about you, and I like to see interaction when I speak. Has anybody in the room heard me speak before? I know there's some junior league folks here. I spoke at the general membership meeting back in April, I think. Okay, all right. First of all, any mothers in the room? Happy Mother's Day, ladies. My mom passed away in 2005, and I miss her every day, but so anyway, thinking of you and your special day tomorrow. So anyway, real quick about me. I'm a local Baltimore guy. I grew up in East Baltimore. I went to St. Wenceslaus on the corners of Ashland and Collington. Anybody know that? Look at that. Okay, my first job when I was 12 years old was setting up bowling pins in the basement of a church in Highlandtown for $3 a night. And I was thrilled to have that job because there were only 4 lanes, so it meant that one of the boys, 12 years old, had to die, get fired, or move away, and the chances weren't very high when you're 12 years old. So when you got that job, you were very excited to get it. So, went to St. Wenceslaus. I also graduated from Lake Clifton High School, which surprises a lot of people when I say that for some reason. And then I went on, I put myself through Towson University. My dad left home when I was 10. I was in foster care by the time I was 16. I've been married and divorced twice. No fault of my own, but, you know. I won't go into that. Anyway, I do have 6 wonderful children. I'm the voice and the face not only of National Geographic, I do some work for them. I've been blessed to do some very cool things, including playing a congressman in season 2 of House of Cards. But one of the things that gives me the most pride is I'm an advocate for mental illness and suicide awareness. One of my 6 children has attempted suicide 3 times. We need to bring mental illness and suicide out of the closet. We need to communicate. And so, why communication, and why did I write? Bear with me, I'm very extemporaneous. We're going to get you involved. Technology's not my friend, so I'll blame the guys in the booth. This is the book. #1 on Amazon, it came out in 2015. I'm happy to talk about it and brag about it. It's a story of my life. It's a transparent look at my life. We sold 5,000 copies in the first year, all through social media. People just talking about the book. Nobody teaches us how to communicate. I see some nodding. If we're lucky, people teach us social skills, right? Please and thank you, ma'am, nice to see you. But nobody really teaches us how to communicate. And that's what I want to do in the 45 or 42 minutes that we have here this morning, is try to help you communicate. And we're going to get into the reasons why we don't. The reason I wrote this book is I looked at my 2 failed marriages. I've survived 2 bouts of infidelity. My father cheated on my mother. I don't know if anybody's been cheated on. It hurts. My father cheated on my mother with her best friend. And then he moved across the street from us, and so I had to watch my dad go in the back door of the woman across the street's house when I was a little kid. I caught my father in the arms of my mother's best friend when I was 10 years old. My first wife cheated on me. I thought we were solid. We had both come from broken homes. More than 50% of all marriages end in divorce. We had come from broken homes. I thought we were solid. She proved to me that we were not. Our kids were 4, 6, 12, and 13. My 13-year-old decided that suicide was the solution for him to dealing with his emotions and his problems. Folks, we don't communicate. We don't talk about what we want, what we need, how we feel, who we are. And so I've made it my life's work, and this book is a transparent look at my life, as I've told you. I've made it my life's work to help people break those bonds, those chains, those boundaries of why we don't communicate. We don't talk about what we want, what we need. Think about children. They're the most innocent, right? They cry when they want something and you run to them. So when they need to get fed, they need to get loved, they need to get whatever. So they're the most natural. It's only because and when they become older and become poisoned by society and by life that we really break down and we lose the ability to ask for the things that we want and the things that we need. All right. I do want to make this as interactive as possible. I'm going to try to break a little bit early. I want to get into all this content. Let me see here. Getting old is terrible, isn't it? There's the arrow that way. I want to take your questions, and I want this really to be about you. I apologize for the colors here. Stepping stones to the authentic you, communicate to empower. This is an empowerment seminar. I want you to walk out of here this morning feeling better than you did when you walked in. So if you do that, I've accomplished part of my job. I'll be around. You can follow me on bobpaff.com. I'm available on social media. People all over the world are amazed at how accessible I am. Why shouldn't I be? Let me also tell you, I'm a practicing Catholic. I'm a man of faith. My message is a faith-based message. I'm proud to say that. I've spoken for Maryland New Directions. I've spoken in homeless shelters in Washington, D.C. I speak all over the country, and I've had people come up to me and say, "You're the first guy to talk about his faith." Why the hell not? I think I can say hell. I think God says it's okay. Why not talk? My faith has got me through the worst times of my life. Anybody, right? It's our faith. It's our faith in God. This is my ministry. God has called me to do this. I've done a lot of really cool things in my life. I have exposed myself, if I can use that word, because I think it's what God wants me to do. And that's what we're doing. So if I can impact you, empower you in some way this morning to go out and spread the word and to help other people, then I've done an okay job. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion. It's not that we don't listen because we're ready to talk. It's the illusion that communication has even taken place. George Bernard Shaw, anybody ever heard of George Bernard Shaw? Irish playwright? Not only was he an Irish playwright, he co-founded the London School of Economics. Pretty smart guy. Everybody knows him as the playwright. But Mr. Shaw in about 1848 said the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it's taken place. Well, guess what? In 2016, we still have this problem. Ever talk to somebody and they walk away and then they go and do whatever and you're thinking, what? That's not what I said. Anybody married in the room and you say to your spouse and he comes back and you said, what were you thinking? What are you doing? What? Ever had that? Yeah, I've been single for 7 years. I get that. I get that. So we think that we've communicated. You see, folks, we don't see people as they are. We see them as we are. We see them based on our life experiences, don't we? We're molded, Freud says, by the time we're 5. So the package arrives. Anybody ever heard of the 5 love languages or ever read the 5 love languages? Great book, should be required in addition to mine for every couple getting married. I got a plug. Right? So we're already pre-wired when we get into these relationships. I sit on 2 hospital boards. I built an insurance agency. So I've gone from the barroom to the boardroom to the bowling pin alley, done all those things. But we all come into things with our own preconceived notions of how they should be. We see people as we are and not as they are. Remember that. Remember that. Let's get into this. A powerful woman is often considered what? Arrogant. Anybody else? Aggressive. A B. There's that B word, right? Anybody else? Sexy. I like that. I like that a lot. That's a good one. Anybody else? Confident. Let's talk about it. Queen, right? Think about what's going on in politics these days, and I'm not going to play that hand. Let's see here. Diva. Isolated. It's lonely at the top. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. We think that the CEO, whether she be male or female, whatever, has got all the friends going to the parties. Let me tell you something, folks. In the thimbleful of celebrity that I've had in my lifetime, there are a lot of lonely nights. Everybody thinks you've got a date to the prom. So guess what? Nobody's going to ask you. So this pretty lady's sitting at home. Because everybody thinks, I'm not going to ask her because she might say no. And we don't want to be rejected, embarrassed. And we're going to talk about all that. Right? So it can be very lonely. There's that B word. Right? Oh, she only got there because she blankety blanked with the boss or one of the board of directors or whatever. I like this when I say, the man, he wears the pants, she just tells him what color. Right? All right. So, again, it's so much perception, not seeing people as they are, seeing people as we are. Hillary Clinton is probably one of the most polarized women. I would say she's going to go down in history as one of the most polarized. Again, it doesn't matter your politics. I look at it from a marketing perspective. Politics and religion are two of the biggest sales jobs that we know of in the world. They really are, aren't they? I've now said, hey, let's Trumpetize that. And people know what I mean because the guy's a marketing guy. That's what he is. It's all about marketing. All about marketing. Lonely. We talked about lonely and isolated. Anybody ever feel that? Any people running, department heads or whatever? Right? Look at that. Absolutely right. And what do we do about our loneliness and isolation? Do you go public with it? No. How come? Nobody cares. Right? Well, we don't want people to think that, well, you don't have any friends? What's wrong with you? Right? So we don't talk about these things. What we do instead of talking about things is we carry them around, don't we? We carry them around and they weigh us down. What does it mean to be empowered? Who wants to raise their hand? What does it mean to you to be empowered? As a woman, as a mother, as a wife, yes, ma'am. Oh my God, I love that word. She said to become vulnerable. Can you all hear me? I don't think I need to use that microphone, do I? Anybody else? What's it mean to be empowered? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry? In control. Okay. Yes.
To be comfortable in your own skin and to have a voice that you're able to share.
I love that. And what we're talking about here, what I really want you to walk out of here with, and as we get a little bit deeper into this, and we'll break down the boundaries of why people don't do these things, is really what I'm telling you, ladies and sir, is own your stuff. Be in your own space. Stop worrying about what anybody else thinks. It took me 50 years to get to that point. Stop worrying about what anybody thinks. Because at the end of the day, are they paying your bills? They taking care of your children? They cutting your grass? They doing any of that stuff? What's the answer to that? No. They're not doing that, are they? Doesn't matter what other people think, other people say, as long as you come from a place of kindness. Just come from a place of kindness. One of the things I tell people all the time is don't blame anyone else. So in a relationship, I had a segment on CBS Radio, and I've been on Fox News. I had a segment on Fox News. And I do a lot of talking on different topics. I talk about dating after 50. I talk about dating after divorce. So we talk about a lot of things, and one of the things I tell people when I speak is don't make anybody else responsible for your happiness. Don't blame anybody for your unhappiness. So what we tend to do, young lady, what's your name? Bianca. So what I would do, so Bianca and I are in a relationship. Let me give you some relationship coaching here that I'm throwing into this. So I'm not really happy with the way things are going with Bianca and I. Really not happy about it. I'm saying, Bianca, you know what? You never do what I need you to do. You don't give me what I want. No, hear this? You. Let's turn it around. Bianca, you know what I really need? I need to feel loved. I would love it, honey, if when I came home at the end of the day and I'm tired or whatever, just come up and give me a big hug. Can you do that? See how different that was? Instead of saying to her, Bianca, you never do this, or that. You ever been there? Because we've been there, right? You say, oh, if only you would take out the trash, I would love you more. You know, I did that. I read The Good Housekeeping. So I cooked, I cleaned, I did all this stuff, and I thought I'd have more intimacy in my relationship. That didn't work. So, but what we have to is, what do I want? What do I need? And so I say to Bianca, and folks, it's your responsibility. Let me tell you that right now when I talk about owning it. I'm very intuitive. I'm a Cancer. We tend to be pretty intuitive folks. Have any Cancers in the room? Just wishing you were, right? Aren't we? And I'm left-handed. You see that? Right? But, as intuitive as you may be, we're not mind readers. Folks, so ask for what you want. So in that relationship, and I think I've just given you something, you've jotted down, You go home and you say to your husband, hey, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix us. Here's what we're going to do. Not here's what you're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. So you say, I would love this. Because on those 5 love languages, if you don't understand what yours is, how is anybody else going to understand what yours is? Right? Do you know what your love languages are? Think about that. What does empowerment mean? Whatever it is that will bring you happiness, love, peace of mind, or success. And these are all relative terms for everybody. Success is a relative term. What is it that you need? How many people are from Baltimore? It's a tough place to kind of have some privacy and have everybody like, where'd you go to high school? And, right? Yeah, I lived 15 years in Roland Park. I live in Homeland now. My kids are at the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen and Gilman and Boys Latin School and Calvert Hall and Maryvale. I told you I had a lot of them. It's tough to carve out a life in Baltimore. I love to get out whenever I can. New York's one of my favorite places. Charleston's another. Love to get out. It's hard to have that privacy, right? Find out what it is. How many of you, if you're willing to share, if your boss is not sitting next to you, how many of you are willing to share that you're in a job that maybe you don't love, not where you see yourself in the future? Anybody here in that way? You're like, this is really not where I'm, okay. The average American changes jobs 7 times. 7 times. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is find out what it is. I reinvented myself at age 50. It's never hard to reinvent ourselves at any age. But the older we get, the harder it becomes to reinvent yourself, right? And we talk about those voices that we hear inside our gut. Deepak Chopra talks about our gut never being wrong. I like to call my voices God talking to me, otherwise people think I'm crazy if I say my voices. But listen to your gut. Listen to what things are saying. Your voices ever say, go here, don't go there, don't do this, do that? And usually when you follow that, they turn out to be right. And we don't act on those things. And we need to act on those things to create the peace of mind, the success, and the happiness that we're looking for. Why is empowerment so critical now? Well, I promise this would not be a political discussion, and it won't. I think it's very interesting what's going on now in politics. I think the fact that Donald Trump has become so popular is he's tapped into a lot of anger and a lot of hatred, hasn't he? He's marketed the snot out of it. I could use another word, but he's marketed the snot out of that. Incredibly polarizing. Love him or hate him, but you have an opinion, don't you? Anybody in the room not have an opinion about the Donald? Of course, right? Right? So what this tells me, because I do some political consulting and people ask me all the time, what this tells me is there is a lot of unhappiness. People have lost hope. We're angry. We're an angry people. And this man is tapped into saying things that a lot of us might feel. He's a bull in the china shop, man. He is a double bull the guy is out there. And he doesn't care. He's direct and unfiltered and abrasive and all those other things, regardless of the politics. But he's tapped into something. It's a disjointed, unfair, cruel world we live in, and it gets more challenging and disenfranchising for so many every single day. That's out of my book. More so every single day, we become disconnected, disenfranchised, lonely, isolated. I was consulting to the Monsignor at the cathedral a few years ago. I've been a member of the cathedral parish since 1997, and I was asked to come in and to talk to one of the prior Monsignors, I won't mention any names, about helping him with his homilies. And the gentleman who brought me in is a very prominent man in town, and I said, you're going to need to be in that meeting because I'm going to get a lot of resistance. And we sat down, and I got a lot of resistance. And I said, Monsignor, I'm not here to change you, I'm here to help you. But here's the next thing I said, which he's no longer at the cathedral, by the way, but anyway, the next thing I said probably shook him in his boots. I said, if you can't sell religion in this day and age, you can't sell it. Because people are hurting. We want to be connected. You'll find me in church 3-4 times a week. The masses during the week are 30 minutes long. If I can't give God 30 minutes during the week, during the course of my day, then shame on me. But why do I go? It makes me feel better. Remember what this whole thing is about? It makes me feel better. It's my quiet time. I have 6 kids, I told you that. So at any one given point, somebody needs or wants something. And money's usually at the top of the list. But when I'm in church, Dad's in church or whatever, that's my quiet time. I kind of do my thing and get my thoughts together and to do that and to be in that space for a lot of these reasons. Anybody, and I'm going to raise my hand, I love doing what I do, and I love where I am in my life, but it is not where I thought I would be in my life. Anybody can relate to that? Yes. Not where we thought we were going to be. But guess what? You are where you're supposed to be. Your job and your challenge is to find out what that is and what you do with it. About 2 months ago, I had a revelation. We all want to create a legacy, don't we? We all want to leave a legacy. We want to leave something. So when people are standing, sir, what's your name? I didn't get the guys. I'm sorry? Tommy? We all want to leave something. So when we're standing over Tommy's casket, I always say yesterday, not today or tomorrow. When we were standing over Tommy's casket yesterday and we're saying all these great things about him, if I asked you, if I went around and we had the time, and I would say to you, what do you want people to say about you when they're standing over that casket? Or they're at your memorial? Think about that. What do you want them to say about you? Tommy made a lot of money. Tommy was the one that always drove the fancy cars in the neighborhood. Tommy had to have the best of this. Tommy had to have the best of that. Anybody want that? I don't want that. I don't care about that. Tommy was a great coach. Tommy made a difference in the neighborhood. Tommy made a difference in people's lives. Tommy cared. Don't you want that? Yeah. So this book, My 6 Children Are My Legacy, and it was really a very emotional moment for me when I realized, oh my God, if something were to happen to me and God were to take me away yesterday, I've created a legacy that's going to carry on. It's going to carry on in my book. It's going to carry on in my children. When my first marriage broke up, my children were 4, 6, 12, and 13. My 12-year-old looked at his mother and said, Mom, I love you, but I don't like you. And I don't want to live with you. I'm going to live with Dad. He's 29 years old now, and he's one of my best friends. Because he said, I want to go this way. I want to be like this. You see, folks, we can love people. We don't have to like them. We don't have to like them. We carve out our space. I want you to be true to yourself. You can love them the way you need to love them. You can bless them, can't you? Send them on their way, but you do not have to like them. We spend more time changing our clothes, planning our vacation, than we do purging our toxic relationships. Get rid of the people in your life that do not bring you happiness. If I can give you some advice right now. And I can tell you the words to use to do it. You can do it with love and kindness, right? You can just say, you know what? This is the track that I'm on, and I'm not feeling that when we're together or whatever it is. It's okay to do it. You might actually be freeing them. Because every time, young lady, what's your name? Angela. Every time I'm with Angela, I'm thinking, Angela's so combative, and I've got to this and that or whatever. And Angela comes to me, and she's like, Bob, I'm not feeling love. This isn't working for me. We can get together once a year for drinks because I need to be liquored up to hang out with you. But I can't have you in my space any more than once a year, whatever the deal is. I'm thinking, oh, my God, if I wish I'd said that. Thank you, Angela. Woo! Right? You might actually be doing that person a favor. By freeing them up, letting them go, let her become, let Angela and Bianca become who they were meant to be. Let Tommy be who he's meant to be. Take the chains off. That was in the last talk about the chains and all that in the handcuffs. I think it was handcuffs. All right? How can we empower ourselves? Hopefully by now I've given you some tools in the brief time that we've had together. I want you to communicate your needs and your desires. Starting today when you leave here, talk about what you want. Talk about what you need. If you need to do, and my assistant Heather's got some handouts, now's a good time to pass them out. We're going to pass these things out. I'm going to actually give you some tools to utilize to make you a more effective communicator. Start asking for what you want and start talking about what you don't want. It's okay. Communicate your needs and your desires. I'd really like it if you do this. It makes me feel loved when you do that. Don't say you never do this. Don't go there. That's not a soft start. That's a combative, right? That's a confrontation. And you can do this, folks, in your personal relationships, and you can do it in your professional relationships. I need to feel this. Or if somebody communicates something to you, and you say, here's what you do. You either say it back to them. Is this what I heard you say, Bianca? Or you say, you know what? I'm not really understanding that. Don't say, you didn't communicate that very well. Because when you say that to me, what's my reaction going to be, right? I've got my back up now. What do you mean I didn't communicate it? Are you telling me I'm not a good communicator? What's your problem? I hired the wrong person. But if I say, I'm really not understanding that, I'm really slow. I love self-deprecation. You talked about vulnerability, one of my favorite words. Why is it that we're so afraid to be vulnerable? You've got to be very, very secure to carry a lot of these things. You've got to be very secure. I think vulnerability is one of the most important things in a relationship. The ability to be vulnerable with another human being, personally or professionally. And when you can achieve that in a relationship, you know you've got something. You are where you're supposed to be. Even though it's not where you thought you would be, including me, you are where you're supposed to be. Be aware, be present, be in the moment. Lots of folks are going through the motions. Lots of folks are clueless. Be aware, be present, be in the moment. What does that really mean? When you're in a situation, when you're in an environment, folks, you're supposed to be there. Am I here because I might get a business deal out of this? Am I here because I might meet the love of my life? Why am I at the Goucher College campus this morning? Why am I here? So what I want you to do is focus in on every time this happens to you, I want you to be aware, be prepared, be present, and be in that moment. Take it in, absorb it. How often do we go to places where we don't really want to be and we can't wait to get out and we're looking at our clock or our watch the whole time? We've all done that. I've been there and done that. A lot of times, I either get invited or I take on a speaking engagement or whatever, and I think, I really don't want to do that. For whatever the reason is, timing is not right. And I get there, and usually it turns out to be fabulous. And then I go back to this, and I'm very thankful. Another one of my favorite words is gratitude. Let's express gratitude for what we have and for who we are and for the opportunities that are brought to us. I think if we opened ourselves up and were more aware of that, we'd be happier, we'd be more successful. Again, whatever that means. For some people like Tommy, it's a fancy car. I saw Tommy drive in. Woo! Man, I didn't know they made a Bentley like that. Make a plan. I'm teasing. It was an Aston Martin. Break the fear cycle. Oh, we're going to talk about fear. Fear is one of my favorite things. I love fear. We're going to talk about fear. We're going to really take those cufflinks, or not cufflinks, look at that. We're going to take those handcuffs off. We're going to talk about fear. You're going to be blown away when we get into fear. Be proactive, folks. Don't let anybody intimidate you. Don't let anybody talk you down. Don't let anybody dumb you down. Don't let anybody reject. What did Eleanor Roosevelt said? Nobody can reject you without your permission. Nobody can, right? Come on, look at Eleanor. Oh, woo! Fabulous woman or what? We're talking about empowering women. Eleanor Roosevelt? Wow. Does it get any better than that? I don't think so. There might be some equal, but what an incredible woman. Reciprocate. I say two things. You can jot these down. Always pay it forward. You've heard that one before. But I don't know if you've heard this one. Always give more than you take. Always, always give more than you take. Casting your bread on the water. Anybody ever heard that? Yes. Casting your bread on the water. Give more than you take. and you will be rewarded 10 times over. I've lived it. I've seen it, okay? Things have happened to me that didn't make any other sense. So at the core, it's so funny because I wrote this book on communication. I know what you might be thinking, so let's talk about it. Here's a guy who wrote a book on communications, married and divorced twice, 6 kids, blah, 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 I get it. Well, who better to write a book on communication and talk about relationships? I want to work and talk to people and listen to people that have done it. I want to see people who have failed. I want to know people who have been knocked down. I have a formal education, but my street education, growing up in East Baltimore, my life has taught me way more than any book, any classroom could ever teach me. It's what you do with the things you've learned in your life, that paying it forward, that giving more than you take. Okay? Reciprocate, pay it forward. Oh, we were doing so well. Here we go. There's a lot of redundancy here. This is simple stuff. These are common things, not commonly done. So what I'm trying to do is to really shift your paradigm, shift your mindset into thinking it's okay to ask for what you want and what you need. It goes back to that fear thing. And I'm going to ask you, why don't we do a lot of these things? Why don't we ask for what we want? I want you to think about that. And I want you to focus as you're sitting here, or if you're in a situation right now, business or personal, that some of these things might apply to. If I could only say, I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who was frustrated with her sister. She was traveling to Roanoke, thought she was attending her niece's college graduation, only to find out that the niece is not graduating. Well, come on, you find out sooner than 2 days before, right? I mean, they were apparently going to let her walk. She was shy a few credits, but she was going to walk. So my friend found out, and my son's friend lives in New York. He was coming down from New York. They were driving to Roanoke for this graduation. She finds out that the daughter's not graduating, her niece is not graduating. So she's angry with her sister, and she called me up. And she's going on and on about her sister. And I feel this and that. And I said, shh. And this is the great thing, too. I said, do you want me to listen or do you want me to respond? Because don't we talk sometimes and we just want to talk? I don't want you to fix it, guy. I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to hear it. I just want you to listen to it. So I said to her, do you want me to listen or do you want my opinion? She said, no, I want your opinion. I said, let it go. Your sister's a grown woman. This is her daughter. I'm sure you're angry, whatever. And she said, I feel so deceived and this, and my son came down and he took a day off of work from a new job and on. I said, I hear you. And you have 2 choices. You can just walk away, and if you walk away, what do we say? Unless you let it go, you carry it. Or you can say to your sister, Bianca, I'm really upset at what happened. I think you had to know that your daughter wasn't going to graduate. And my son and I were traveling down, and I asked her, always, always, always ask yourself, how does something make me feel? Always go there. Do I feel lied to? Do I feel cheated? Do I feel unworthy? How do I feel? Because that's our truest compass. And I said to her, so talk to your sister about that, get it off your chest. How does this make me feel? And then move on. I said, but you cannot control her. All you can control is your response to her. Can you control other people? Do you want to? No, really, let that go. Let that go. All you can control is your response to them. Mind reading is rarely, we could change it and say never, effective. You don't know if you don't ask. Did I hear? Is this what you said? This is what I'm hearing. No, I didn't say that. You don't know if you don't ask. Oprah said this a long time ago, and I love it. She actually said, we only get the things in life we're not afraid to ask for. So much truth to that. We walk around so often not feeling empowered to ask for what we want and what we need. We only get the things we're not afraid to ask for. If you never ask, what's the response always going to be? No. No. I mean, you might get a gift. Somebody might say, hey, here it is. But generally speaking, right, Sally? Generally speaking, we only get the things we're not afraid to ask for. Folks, Ask for what you need. Ask for what you want. It's okay. The only answer you can get is a no, and you got that before you asked. So you're already halfway there. We are winding down, I think. Be proactive. You've all seen this before, right? Be the change you want to see in the world. And the world is your community, your universe, your world. That's what he meant. Be the change you want to see in the world. Start by example. Be an example for other people. Live a true and authentic life. Easier to do this, right? Easier to sit back, and it's hard. Folks, this is hard stuff. I don't pretend it's not hard to be proactive, to stand up for injustices or stand up for what you want, or to stand up in a relationship, and we're getting to that slide that I really love. It'll all come together. It's really hard to do that. It is so much easier. I have to smile. I would have, typically when I speak, and I love this forum, I would have pulled y'all down in the front of the room. When Bianca came in, she put a smile on my face because I'm the guy that sits in the first pew at church because I told her I'm going to be up close as possible. I want the credits and I want to know, I'm up there closer to God. So the priest sees me. I usually pull everybody down, but I know it's a lot of sliding in and all that stuff, but don't think I didn't notice those of you sitting in the back of the room, because I did. All right? Always easier to do nothing, to have no voice, not to raise your hand, not to have an opinion. There you go. You must be the voice and the force behind your own convictions. Right or wrong. Thank you. We got 5 minutes. We're wrapping this up. Right or wrong, you got to be that voice. Be prepared to stand up. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've done a lot of things right. But own it. Right or wrong, own it. And you know what I say about falling on your sword? Jump on your sword and do it quickly. I talked about being vulnerable. We don't say thank you and please and I'm sorry enough. Look for ways to say those things. What's your name? Courtney. Courtney, I'm really sorry. What I said to you must have hurt your feelings. My daughter would come home to me and say, you won't believe what Mom said next. And I say, yes, I would. No. And then she tells me, and I say, honey, that must have really hurt. Now, I could say, she's blah, 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 right? I don't want to say, that's her mom. But I can say, honey, that must have really hurt. That must have really hurt. I gave my daughter permission to talk to me about those things. That's what we got to do. I love all the expressions and comments that people make. As a father of 6, people that say, kids get it and they figure it out and whatever. They don't. They really don't. What we do as human beings is we draw conclusions because we have to, don't we? We need closure. But you could be so far off from the truth. What we need to do with people is to give them tools. I want to give you tools, and I gave you that handout to build your toolbox. I want to build a toolbox to better communication. Love this one. Everything that we do is really based in fear. Gandhi said this years ago, and I love it because I put it in my book, I came up with the diagram, and then I found out that he said it. Man, was I feeling good. God, I was feeling good. But I want you to think about this. Fear immobilizes us. We're afraid to fail. We're afraid to be embarrassed. We're afraid to be rejected. We're afraid of confrontation. And then where does that lead to? Despair, anger, immobilization, isolation, denial. Folks, this is it right here. That's the slide. Everything we do, we're afraid to ask because we might not like the answer. We might not like the outcome. If I ask Courtney to the prom and she says no, I've now been embarrassed. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not smart enough. What's your problem? And guess what? You're not going to be good looking enough, smart enough, whatever enough for everybody. You're not. Move on. But we internalize these things. We take them personal. I say this all the time. When somebody says, am I not attractive? Yes, you're gorgeous. But I'm not attracted to you. It doesn't diminish your gorgeousness. But you need to own your gorgeousness. She's gorgeous. She may not be gorgeous for me in a relationship. But we need to walk away knowing that we are gorgeous. Right? Physically, personally. Folks, make a plan. Have a daily purpose plan. Whether it's going into the office, dealing with that relationship, I'm trying to speed up here. Short-term goals, long-term goals. Where do you want to be? Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. How are you going to get there if you don't know where there is? You're shooting in the dark. Where do I want to go? What do I want to be? Where do I want to work? Who's my perfect mate? I know nobody's perfect. Bear with me. Who's that mate? Who's perfect for me? Right? Who's perfect for me? What are we striving for? What's that goal? We're striving for authenticity, and this is it. Authenticity leads to empowerment. Empowerment leads to effective communication. So we've brought it full circle. Authenticity leads to empowerment. Once you know who you are at your core, you're empowered. Empowerment leads to effective communication. 93% of all communication is nonverbal. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about if I look around in the room and everybody's sleeping, I know I'm boring them to death. Or they're on drugs, because I typically don't bore people. I think it's because they're on drugs. That's what I choose. All right? Authenticity leads to empowerment. Empowerment leads to great communication. I think that's it for us, right? I can take maybe one or two questions, but... One or two. Any questions at all for me? And anything you want to ask is fair. Anything at all? Yes, ma'am.
When you articulate your own convictions,
Yes.
you're labeled as an obstructionist.
Okay.
So how do you...
When you articulate your opinion, you're labeled as an obstructionist. You know, that's tough, and you can imagine I'm not shy. I think that really does serve to empower you to do that. What I do is you need to have the conversation with yourself in that situation. So I want to speak up, okay? I want to say this, and I'm aware of what the consequences might be. Folks, always have that conversation with yourself. Am I willing to accept that? If I'm not willing to accept it, but I still want to do it, I need to work on it. So then it becomes a skill set that you need to develop. So I hope that helps. I'm never, you know, it's funny, I was on the board of a hospital, and I stepped down, and the chairman was a really good friend, and it was a hospital. And I said, I'm stepping out. And he said, why? And I said, you know what? And I wasn't the chairman of the board. Another guy was. And I said, if I didn't know who the chairman was, I wouldn't know who the chairman was. And what that meant was this guy wasn't leading. We sat there, and it's like, it's almost like, who's the chairman today? And he asked me to stick around. He asked me to have lunch. They fired the chairman. They asked the chairman to step down, which is never an easy thing to do. You have to be, the point of that is, you have to be prepared for I was prepared to walk away from that board. I actually wanted to walk away from that board because it was a waste of my time and energy, and they got nothing done. So you have to be prepared for the consequences either way. Anybody else? Yes?
When you ask somebody what you want them to do, and it could be very simple.
Yes.
You're in trouble, what do you do to help
Yes.
you? Go to the grocery store.
Yes?
And they say no.
Yes.
Then where are you?
That's a great question. I think what they're doing is sending you a message. And what she said is you ask somebody something simple to do, like go to the grocery store for you or to help you with something, and they say no. First of all, I give that person some credit for saying no, because there's a risk to saying no. But you need to hear the message that they're sending you. Now, you have choices. You could think about the relationship and how's it gone, and it's been good or bad or whatever. You can say, wow, I'm really hurt. Remember going back to, I'm really hurt. Why are you saying no? Folks, we never know what people are dealing with. We really don't. And I've been guilty of this myself. We're human beings, and I'm always learning this stuff. We never know what other people are dealing with. We take things so personal, and I don't mean to offend you. Most people really don't care about what you're dealing with. And I'm not saying, but why? Because they're dealing with their own stuff. They care so much less than you think they do. We really think that the neighbors are this, that, whatever, and they really don't. And once you let that go, you're happier. But I would ask that person, say, that really hurts. We've been friends for 8 years, and I broke my leg, and I really need help going to the grocery store. Can we talk about it? Because that's a very warm way to approach it. Again, don't make people don't make them guilty of anything. They're not responsible for your happiness. Let that notion go. Anybody else? Thank you so much. This was really a lot of fun. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
On behalf of the Baltimore County Commission for Women and the Junior League of Baltimore, we
I got
would
a
like
purse?
to thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Metrosexual, what can I tell you?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.